the Dwyer team here, and we are excited to welcome you back to our spring episode.
Back from winter break?
Back from winter break, I guess. Yeah. I did that.
I can't believe we're already into February. This is fantastic.
I know. And I say spring because in theory, we are in the spring market now. It actually starts a lot earlier. When's the official week, Jerry, for the spring market?
That's a great question. I guess it's whenever anybody would assume it would be.
I think it's the end of January.
Historically, we pick up, and the real estate market starts picking up, let's say, the second week of January.
Yeah.
And then, January is still great. February, March, April, May. June is still great. And then we see a little bit of a slowdown in July and August, and then things ramp up. This is all historic. Ramp up a little bit in September, October, November starts to trail off, and then historically, December is the slowest month.
Okay, so today, thank you for listening in. We are going to be discussing single-family homes versus condos versus new builds.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody out there listening who are thinking about getting into the market this year, we're here to equip you with all of your options. I'll let Jerry take it away talking about single-family homes.
All right. So we get asked this question fairly frequently. As buyers, do they want to look at a new build? Do they understand what new builds are all about? What does it include? Versus buying a resale home, versus buying a condo, whether that's apartment or townhouse style. What does that look like as far as cost, or as far as monthlies, or as far as what they can expect? So every buyer has, in my opinion, I think I can speak for all of us, every buyer has an idea of what they're looking for. Sometimes once we take them out showing them stuff, that idea will change once they see what else is available out there. So people need to educate on what a condo is and some people say they don't want it to have a condo fee. But what does a condo fee include? Are those benefits are those things that would benefit you as a buyer by not having to cut your grass or shovel your snow or deal with exterior maintenance? It can be an easier way to budget. So every purchase is different for every person. So and you said, let's start at single family homes. So single family homes are exactly that. Single family home, no condo fee, but you're paying mortgage, you're paying property taxes. Usually you're paying, water heater rental if applicable. And then you have any updates that you want to do to the property that are totally up to you as a single family homeowner. You can, put up a fence. You can paint the outside of the house. You can put new windows in. You can replace the roof. You can redo the driveway. You can do whatever you want. Within reason, of course, not speaking about building permits or anything of that stuff, of any updates you do inside. But what I mean is you can pretty much do what you want to a single family home without getting condo approval, let's say, for something that when you're purchasing a condo. And then condos, when you're buying an apartment condo or a townhouse style condo, what does that look like? You're paying a mortgage payment. You're paying a condo fee. You're paying property taxes as well. Like those property taxes never goes away, whether it's a condo or a freehold detached home. So some people say they don't like condo fees. I don't want to pay a condo fee. I want to try and save my $300 or $400 a month. But in some instances, I feel like I'm a big believer in condos. I lived in a condo for a long time and I loved it. I didn't have to shovel snow. I didn't have to cut the grass. I didn't have to worry about replacing the windows or the roof or the siding or the deck or front doors or anything. So I found that to be a benefit. I love doing those things. So I was only responsible for drywall in. So any maintenance that I want to do inside, I could do whatever I wanted, unless I was taking down walls, like structural, as for instance, structural things. Then you need condo approval for those things. But the majority of it was fine. And I was able to do whatever I wanted for the most part inside. And then the difference between an apartment condo versus a townhouse style condo. Apartment condos offer what an apartment offers. So elevators and heated and cooled hallways and balconies, if that's applicable. Sometimes you'll have barbecue. Sometimes you'll have communal barbecues. You have underground parking. You have all of those things.
And usually higher condo fees.
That's right. When there's more than the condo covers, which what we call common coverage, common ground, there's going to be a higher condo fee because their cost for the corporation is higher. So they will have a little bit higher monthly fee for an apartment condo versus a townhouse style condo.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it really comes to is preference, I think. I think me and Jerry are very different in that regard. You're very pro condo. You don't want the maintenance. You don't want to do the lawn. You don't want to do the snow removal. And then there's some who are willing to take on that maintenance. They want more property. They want more of a backyard. They want somewhere for their dog to run. They want
kids to play, whatever
exactly.
Sure.
And in that regard, though, you have to keep in mind with a single family, you're taking on that maintenance. You're taking on that responsibility. And that can be a lot of work and it can be costly to a homeowner as well. But that's where you can really, that's why, especially for first-time homeowners, it's also a really good option because it can kind of introduce you to home ownership without taking on so much at once. And one thing that I noticed with the condos as well is that that has been very attractive for first-time home buyers because they tend to be lower priced than the single-family homes. Okay, so
It's also maybe
Get into the
not a
market.
bad option for somebody's first investment property as well.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Yes.
then it's easier to maintain your costs monthly, so you know what your expectations are. If you're buying an investment property, that's a good point. Condos, you have that all covered, and you're not worrying about is the tenant cutting the grass, are they shoveling the snow, are they doing it where they're supposed to be doing it?
Or
Corporation comes.
it alleviates that pressure on the owner to go
That's
over
right.
and
That's
cut
right.
and maintain the property if the tenant isn't doing it or if those arrangements haven't been made. So
Absolutely, I think that's
it
smart.
can also maintain a sense of curb appeal and responsibility on the neighborhood and your neighbors around you. And that's something that might be important to some buyers. So just keep in mind when you're going into a condo, there could be some rules and regulations that might be more strict than others. There might be some complexes that don't allow pets. There might be some, and that's the one actually loophole. They're not really, no one's allowed to discriminate against your pets except in theory a condo court can.
Well, you're right. Some condos in the declaration, right in the rules and regulations of the condos, that's been set up from the beginning that no pets allowed. That's a good point, Hannah. Yeah.
And that can impact, but sometimes people of that neighborhood don't want to have the barking dogs. They don't, and that's why they do that. And they also can do stipulations to make sure that all of your neighbors' lawns are manicured properly, that you're not being impacted by them either. Parking regulations as well to ensure that everything is flowing properly. And something to keep in mind is some will also be more strict on even what window coverings you can have because it affects the appearance on the outside. So you have a little bit less ownership in how you want to make it your own. However, every condo corp is different. And that is why your realtor that you're working with should always recommend a status certificate and a lawyer's review and ensure that you have all of the rules and regulations so you know what you're getting into moving forward.
I think
yes,
that's a good
because I sold a condo a few years ago and the owners, in anticipation of getting the property ready for market, redid the gardens out front and put down fresh mulch, only to be told the next day that the mulch wasn't the proper color. And it looked very close. I don't think most people walking by would notice it, but the condo corporation noticed it. So all of that work and expense of doing the mulch had to be redone. That was pretty harsh, but
But you're right.
if
it
you
could
know
be.
what to expect,
Yeah.
if you know what to expect, and that's done for a reason, because then everybody's value remains the same. It gives a uniform look. Some people like that, some people don't. So if you don't like it, don't be looking at condos.
Yeah, I mean, that's wise. Condos are great, but if it keeps your neighbor from painting the front door purple,
Correct.
everything's going to be uniform on the outside, and it keeps them from having something that may bring down the property value for everybody else. So it can be a great thing, or if you like to be, have your own taste and do your own thing to your outside, then you're right. The condo's not for everybody.
Because purple front doors are wonderful, but not necessarily
That's right.
in a condo.
That's right.
And I might think it's wonderful, but if the condo corporation doesn't think it's wonderful, I'm going to be overruled.
That's right, and you have to change it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at your expense.
That's right.
And it's funny too, because another option there is semi-detached homes,
Yep.
which can have the misconception that, so they're two homes adjoined, that your neighbor has to kind of match everything that you're doing but that's not the case. They're technically single family homes that you own one side of the property. If your neighbor wants to paint their house yellow or purple or put some funky colors all over it, you have to be okay with that, even though it's attached to your space. Now I think that we should also kind of discuss status certificate.
Okay.
Because now we're not lawyers and it's a lawyer that always reviews it. but Jerry and Francis are goofing off, guys.
So-
We gotta scold them. So status certificates, Jerry.
Okay, so status
Back on
certificate. So let's quickly talk about condos again. So when I got into real estate, I was living in a condo. I was investing in condos, so I went ahead and got my condominium designation, so I could help people with purchasing a condo. So status certificates are always different. Every corporation has a different end result, but they all have pretty much the same meat and potatoes within the status certificate. But a status certificate is important for a buyer because it outlines what their expectations are, what the expenses are, what the rules and regulations of the corporation. So the buyer will understand what their expectations are when they take possession of the property. Condo fees that are outlined in the status certificate are usually very well looked after by what we call the declaration and the profit and loss statement within the corporation. That is outlined that every corporation does have to have an idea of where the monthly fees are going, what they're covering, what the expected costs are coming up. So everybody's able to budget for that. So they're trying to do away with what we call a special assessment or a heavy increase in a condo fee. So I am, again, I know Hannah mentioned, I really enjoy condos because I know I'm very cautious of what my monthlies are, and I want to know what I'm going to be expected to spend. And if there is going to be an increase in a condo fee, on average, the average condo goes up by approximately $5 a month annually. So for easy math, let's say you're currently paying $100 a month on your condo fee. On average, that will increase by $5 annually. So 2024, you were paying $100. In 2025, you might be paying $105. That's on average. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be in every case, but it's pretty easy to maintain, especially if the condominium corporation is in good standings and they're cautious of where their dollar is going. So the status certificate is important for your lawyer's review to make sure there's no challenges for the buyer when they go to take possession of the property. And the realtor that you're using when you're purchasing a condo will make sure that you have a condition in the agreement of purchase and sale when you're buying for your lawyer's review of that status certificate, which is very, very important.
And what about regarding special assessments and the reserve fund?
Okay. So the reserve fund study is done, I mentioned earlier, I used a different term, but the reserve fund study is done by a corporation to make sure that the monthly costs that they're charging for each unit owner will cover the expenses that will be coming up for that year. So if they feel there's going to be a shortfall within the budget, then they will talk about increasing the condo fee, or if there's an unexpected expense. So you guys heard Hannah say special assessment. So a special assessment can come into play if there's a shortfall in the reserve fund for the entire corporation. So for example, you're living in an apartment condo or a townhouse style condo, and it's time for the windows to be done. So when they're replacing windows, they're having to get not just one quote, but a few quotes so the corporation understands what the expenditure will be to replace said windows. And if there's a shortfall in the reserve fund, then there's a special assessment for every unit owner to have an added expense in order to cover the cost of that replacement. And it will be up to the decision of the board of directors and the condo corporation to find out how that special assessment will be charged.
Can I ask a question about special assessments? Yeah.
Moving right along. Yes, Fritz.
Okay, so let's take that place over on Cranbrook that one of my clients almost bought. But
yeah, okay, great.
The
That's
offer
good.
wasn't accepted.
That's
Thank
right.
goodness. And so anyway, that ended up being assessment of $40,000 each unit because of the mold situation.
Wait, how much?
That's very
$40,000
high for a special assessment.
They had
Yeah.
to redo them all. But so I'm asking if she had purchased, 5 months prior to all
The
of a sudden
discovery.
of
Yep.
this mold, how does that affect somebody?
Okay, so that's the worst
in the
case scenario.
pocketbook.
Yeah,
It does,
that's the
what I-
worst case
It
scenario.
wouldn't be in the lawyer's review, would it?
No, and so a lawyer's review of status can only discover what is aware of by the corporation. So if there's an expense that the corporation's unaware of, and you're buying that unit, We're not saying that you're not going to have a special assessment. But again, what Francis is describing is the worst possible scenario. I've been in real estate for 20 years, and
I'm a
that's
negative person.
yeah. So I mean, I've been in real estate 20 years. That's the first time I've heard of that happening. But it was a problem with when the roofs were done the year before and they weren't installed properly. So the problem was they had started developing mold in the attics of all the units. So that turned into a corporation expense, which needs to be blanketed over the entire corporation, which is every owner. So every owner had to remediate that problem with I'm pretty certain it was a hired company that was doing all that work, and then that cost was passed down to the unit owners. So when that happens, then it would be your challenge as the owner to budget for that expense.
So your new person just bought, and 3 months later they knock on your door, and you got to pay $40,000 more. Oh, so it's something to be aware
Could it be
of.
caught before you close it, though? You know.
So if it was registered, if they were aware of it, then absolutely,
But if they didn't,
they're
And then their
obligated.
lawyer would pick that
That
up in
would
the
be-
lawyer review, right?
That's right. That's right. So that is, I mean, things.
This wasn't,
unforeseen
it
things can
was
happen.
about 4 or 5 months out.
And it sounds really scary, but in theory, it's very similar to what can happen to you as a homeowner, a single
Good
family
point, Anna.
home
Yes.
too, right? So, we're in a condo. We faced a special assessment recently. We're not loving it, but it is also if we were in a single family home and we needed new windows or we needed to fix a problem, if there was mold or something like that, then it would come right out of our pocket. So the downfall I find to it is that you don't have the preparation or notice for it, right? So sometimes something happens. If the condo corp is ready to get new windows or new doors for everybody, you have to, kind of be ready for that too. And that's why the reserve fund is always good to get reviewed to make sure it's not underfunded, because if it is, that's when special assessments can possibly arise and you can get warnings for it. And if they find that they need to make changes to upkeep your property, it is upkeeping your property, which we need to do for all of our properties, regardless condo or not. It's just that, I think for us, they came at us with about $4,000 special assessment to change all of the windows. Was it something that needed to be done right this second? Maybe not, but in theory, they did need to be done eventually. We just had to prepare to give them that money when they didn't have it covered within the reserve fund to do it. So it can be, I think a lot of people who get into condos get really scared of that, but it's also important to recognize that if you're a homeowner, things can break all of the time.
Well, none of that. You guys paid $4,000 for windows. I had 2 windows replaced in my house. You guys had your whole house replaced, and it cost me $4,000 too for 2 windows.
Yeah.
So you're
And we're
getting better coverage, better cost. But you're right, it's still an expense at the end of the day. But it's way more cost effective to replace something in a condo when you're sharing that expense with 30 other people. 30 other owners.
Also, on a quick note on reserve funds,
Mhm.
something that a lawyer told me was when he is looking over the reserve fund, if it's lower, but the windows have been done fairly recently, and the parking surface has been
Updated, repaired,
yes,
and all that.
and the fencing has been done. He said if there's a reason why the reserve fund is lower, then he will discuss that with the client, because it's not always a bad thing if the reserve fund is lower, as long as everything has been kept up to
the
date.
expenditures
They
match.
have time to rebuild that reserve fund. So you have to keep that in mind too. And that's where the discussion with your lawyer comes in.
And for those listening who might not know what a reserve fund is, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I think the simplest way to explain it is essentially it's part of your condo fees that go towards it, and it's a fund for when things happen.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know it's off topic. With that mold thing, though, is that something an inspection would find if they had an inspection?
They didn't have.
So that's a good point, Chris.
Good
If they would have
point.
done a home inspection, would it have been caught? It absolutely could have been.
Could have been.
It absolutely could have been.
Okay.
And whether it was affecting every unit the same,
Yeah.
it's all speculation because we don't know at this point. All the information we have was after the fact.
Because they're all attached right at the root, like those are the weird ones. Or the,
They're
attached.
this is a townhouse style condo. They're all
they
attached.
spread
Yeah.
through it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
spread through it. So whether yours got at the time,
Yeah, some might not have been as bad
might
as
not
ours.
have, you had an inspection, might not have seen it, and then
Mhm.
2 doors down got it, and that's what happened. You know,
And then just
went- spread through the whole thing.
Yeah.
In theory, too, these upkeeps are something that helps you maintain value and increase equity as well. If you're getting new windows, new roof, that can all help you when it goes to resale as well. So, especially when they're important factors that are important to a buyer. So even though it might sting a little bit, keep in mind it's going towards an asset as well.
Now, what about new builds?
Okay, new builds.
Oh, you know, I just
I
want
think
to
we've
say
all done
something,
new
if you
builds.
don't mind.
I mind, but go ahead.
Okay, well, but it's interesting. We're talking about condos versus new builds. And so what I found with my last client buying a new build condo, because that seems to be all they're building right
Correct.
now is new
Right.
builds. So they're kind of one of the same, except that new builds, you walked in, it was all sparkly and new, and you don't have to worry, basically about anything going bad. Versus buying something else that's a resale condo.
Yeah, that could be 30
you got
years old.
those things. But so I just just talk about new builds, I'm finding that they're mostly townhouses and condos. So you're practically missing buying a resale home versus a detached new build. There's very few, in my opinion, being built.
Seems they're needing to do that to get more.
Population.
Yeah.
We're just running out of land. So London itself is pretty short on new development. So in the new build areas, they're building condos because it's the most cost-effective thing to do to try and build as many properties as they can in the smallest amount of space.
Mhm.
Just buildings
And
and town stuff.
And to be fair, as quick as possible too, because
That's
I've
right.
noticed
We're
that
just
there's
so
some that are
much.
coming that don't even have basements or
Yeah.
So typically, new builds tend to be the most expensive purchase option when
Well, just for the extras, yeah.
Correct.
It's getting giant.
and a lot of times
And tax.
it's not going to
HST.
include a lot of things that a resale condo would include, but you also are the first person in there. You get to smell the fresh paint, the wood
Everything's brand new.
floors,
Yeah.
the new carpet, whatever, and maybe that's worth something.
if you
Well, sure,
believe
there's
in
definitely value
hauntings,
there.
it might be.
If you what? What was that?
If you believe in hauntings, it might be.
That's a whole other topic. All right.
We were watching
Believe
a
in
documentary
hauntings.
this weekend. Sorry, guys.
Well, they can also decide, like mine did, but the basement, you can see the model home, but you can redesign in a sense.
Correct.
Because theirs was being built
Mhm.
Additionally, so they could decide the fireplace or no. And
You
so
pick
you
the
can
colors
you can do
and
that
hardwood.
the way
Yes,
that
your
you like it right at
backsplash,
this moment
uh-huh.
in time. So I think that's
And that is worth it for some people. They want to pick all their stuff right down to paint and trim and cupboard door handles.
Yes.
You can pick everything.
Yes.
I think for some people it's an experience too. I think there's a lot of people in the back of their mind that have a bit of a goal to kind of make something that is their own, right? There's something special to that a little bit, and kind of designing it as you would see fit and putting everything that you want. It makes it so you don't have to go and search for that. You can build it.
Correct.
And you
Yeah.
have buyer's remorse. I think 10 days on a new build, don't you?
So I'm sorry?
Like you got 10 whole days. Like let's say I know you do. You put your deposit down.
It's called a cooling off.
cooling
Yeah.
buyer's remorse. So cooling
That's right.
off period of
So
10
when you
days.
buy new, that's new Canadian real estate law that you have 10 days to finalize everything so you don't feel rushed or
Yeah.
pressured.
Yeah.
To have your lawyer review all the documentation in a new build. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot. There's a lot
There's
of
a
stuff
lot.
when you're buying.
There's a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot of real estate jargon.
And we were just talking too about considering HST with new builds. So for the most part, there's a lot of builders here that will include HST
Yep.
in the price,
Mhm.
but it is always something to be aware of. And usually when you see those billboards too, starting at a certain price, it's because they're starting at that price.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, fine, I would say
And
Everything.
it could be outdated as
Yeah.
well, depending
from
how
the
long
mid
it's been out.
500s. I mean, that's
Yeah, and then
that's kind of a broad
everything you
stroke
want.
there.
But 13% on top of that is
Correct.
not
So
as
what Hannah's
small.
talking about with HST. So when you buy a new build property that is subject to HST tax, just like if you're buying a car, if you're buying a sweater, it has HST on it. A lot of builders will include the HST in the price that you're looking at. So if you're looking at a condo at $550,000 or a detached home at $650,000, that includes all taxes because as long as it's your primary
Mhm.
residence, if you plan on using it as an income property or a second home, then the tax implications change a little bit because you have to pay tax on a secondary home.
Question, just because I'm a producer and not a realtor. What is the new build price versus market value for the same type of home?
Great question. So when we have, you want to take this or do it?
Sure.
So when you have somebody that's buying resale and they're still doing new builds in their area, or they're still competing with new builds, as long as your home is relatively new, you have a feature that yours is done, ready to go with the upgrades that you've done to it, and then maybe anything outside. So you've done the gardening, you put a fence up, you've put the garage door opener in, you've done all those things. A new build, when you buy brand new, a lot of times all you're getting is grass. You don't get any landscaping, you don't get fencing, you don't get a deck, you don't get a patio. And I'm not saying in every case, but in most cases, you don't get anything exterior unless you work it into your purchase. But a lot of times builders, because they're so busy, they may not have the time to do it in the time you want it done. So it will just depend on the purchaser. But the cost is always more money for in the long run to buy brand new for the most part than it is to buy resale with everything done. But if you're comparing a 20-year-old house to a brand new house, it's kind of not the same. I mean, we're not comparing apples to apples.
You have value in it being new.
That's right. And some people, that could be worth 10 extra thousand or 20 extra thousand of them to buy brand new versus resale. Because as we mentioned before, nobody's lived there. Nobody's walked on the carpet with bare feet. Nobody's made a meal in there. So it's brand spanking new when you get the keys.
With that being said, though, value is in the eye of the buyer. And I think an interesting perspective to have is, and don't get me wrong, there's amazing builders out there and there's some amazing craftsmanship out there. But because of what we're facing right now and things going up a little bit quicker, there's a certain type of character and architecture and detail sometimes in older homes that can provide, a little bit more appealing, I think.
And it could come down to that, or it could come down to sheer expense. People aren't willing to pay the cost of new build when they can buy a less than 5-year-old home for $20,000 less.
Yeah.
What's more important to the buyer? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It would just be every situation and every client is different.
And it's not necessarily a value answer to that. It's more just kind of keep in mind when you are buying new, yes, it can have all of these amazing new features, but if you're looking for certain things like, stained glass, crown molding, and hardwood, like that
stained
classic.
Glass, that's where you went with that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm trying to think, but there's certain, sometimes I go into, I recently saw a friend in Woodstock, and I went into her I was an old manor that got turned into an apartment building. Mm-hmm. And just my wow factor when I go in to see all of the wood craftsmanship and
the old construction. You don't get that stuff anymore.
That's what I'm saying. And it is quality, right? But to each their own.
But I think if you work with the Dwyer team, you'll find that you already have gone through all these. What appeals to you? You go through that buyer questionnaire and you will know what's really important. Is a big lawn to one day put a pool in, or versus your little tiny square in the world. So that's one thing I find the Dwyer team does, is that we really go over that before we go and take you and make sure you know why would you go to a new build if they want a big yard.
Well, sure.
And speaking of questionnaire, I've got some questions for trivia.
Nice lead in.
That's my segue. I'm trying to find good segues.
All right.
Trivia.
I already paid you. Remember.
Let's get a score update.
I need
let's get a
I think this has been rigged.
Let's get a score up.
We got Barb with 10, Francis with 7.
Oh, you are way
Jerry with 3, 4,
8.
Carry the 1, 8.
I already know I'm the loser.
And Hannah with 6.
Oh.
All right.
So 10, 8, what do you have?
I'm not just here for number 7.
You have 7. At least I'm in second place.
Do 3 questions today and make sure I'm the only one that gets them.
Like a participation ribbon?
2 questions today. 2 topics, 2 questions.
I can't catch up with
We're
2
doing it.
questions.
There is some bonus point opportunities today, though, so that should help.
We know I need them.
First question. Name the movie from this quote, let me rephrase that. Name the movie where this quote is from and or the company mentioned within the film. The quote is, "You're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business." Hide your answer. All right.
Mark's cheating. She's looking up.
team's going to think about it. We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back. We will be reviewing the questionnaire at the end of the episode, as always, and I'm going to be making a comeback. You just wait and see. So back into new build territory.
Did you just make a plug for yourself about this? The question.
Wait and see. So back to new builds. Something to keep in mind as well is that when it comes to new builds, you don't have to do this all on your own. You don't have to go and do your own thing. We're here to help guide you through it. And, a lot of people think that they don't need to use their realtor, but that's what we're here for.
I mean, working with us to help you, or working with any agent really to help you have your own representation is very important. Whether it's new build or resale, it doesn't make any difference. But we will guide you through the process of a new build. And there can be a lot of paperwork and a lot of questions and a lot of choice. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you need to make the right decision.
Mm-hmm. And of course, are represented with your best interests.
100%.
Okay.
Anything else to add about new builds over the years? I mean, new builds have changed quite a bit, but the process is pretty much the same as far as choosing and picking and finishes.
Correct.
I can think of.
Correct.
I think we can kind of start catering into our next topic. I think we've gotten a good gist of single family versus new builds versus condos. And when you're purchasing, we're here to help you decide what's best for you. Okay. So, and when it comes to condos, we know to give you the information for lawyers review, for status review, for making sure that you're guided properly. So that's something like Francis's story there of a $40,000 special assessment does not happen, but that's not to scare you guys away either. That's worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Being surrounded with the right professionals to help you through the process will alleviate all of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to go into now talking about sold by owner.
Sold by owner, for sale by owners. Okay. Who wants
misconceptions and misinformation?
So for sale by owner. So let's talk about it. Let's start with from us representing buyers. If you guys are out there, if you're buying and you want to buy it for sale by owner.
Why would someone, sorry, I'm going against what you just said.
Yep.
What's the appeal of selling for sale by owner? Why would
so you want to talk about sale
first
first then?
Yeah.
Let's talk about sale first. Okay.
So I checked my mailbox and I got a flyer in the mail of how I can sell with this person and get $600,000 cash.
Okay.
Sounds good.
That's even different too. Yeah.
So the danger with that,
off market, right?
is that 600,000. How do you know that's a good price for your house if you haven't put it on the open market and you don't know what somebody is willing to pay for your home? Because as a buyer, or as a seller, as a realtor representing a seller, we don't know what the motivation of the buyer is. And just from personal experience, a house I sold was purchased by someone who actually had to be on the street. Now, what is the chances of that? And she and her husband were breaking up. And one of the stipulations by the lawyer representing them was that they needed to be within a certain range of the school. So maybe she didn't need to be on the street. They needed to be in that area. And there were very few streets that would have fit the bill. Our home happened to be on that street when they were looking to purchase. So her motivation was high, very high. So if we had just asked 600,000 privately, maybe she was willing to pay 700,000. Are we leaving money on the table? We're not going to know unless that home is listed on the open market. So you might be leaving dollars behind to pick up pennies. I don't know.
And that's what I've noticed too with a lot of those, letters. They're trying to appeal to the fact that you don't have to go through putting on market. You don't have to go through real estate commission. You don't have to, they'll just buy it sight unseen cash. But there's also some concern to that. Why are they willing to buy it for sight unseen cash? And a lot of the time,
Well, it's always at a discounted
exactly.
offer. So
It's because
they're going to
of
tell
that.
you this: they'll buy homes for cash, but they come and look at it, and let's be real, they don't have buyers for these. They're buying them undervalued, so they can turn around and do a little bit of work that needs to be done, or turn around and flip it and sell, put it on the open market themselves, and then resell it. So why would you want to pass that nest egg onto somebody else? Why would you want to put it on the open market to see what it's worth?
And it's funny because they kind of appeal to people's stress levels. They think
Sure.
it'll be less stressful, but that's what we do. We're here to make it as stressless as possible.
Right.
And usually it's a lot more stressful when you're doing it yourself.
That's a good point, Hannah. I mean, when you're selling privately and you're selling when you don't have any details and the other agent might be, or the other company or the other buyer might be saying, well, they'll take care of everything. You'll still need a real estate lawyer. That's Canadian law. You have to have a real estate lawyer to help you close. So if you don't have a realtor, then your lawyer is going to be doing the majority of that work and verifying and then charging you for that. For not in every case, but for the most part, there is a bill. You can't normally get away from having the expense of having somebody work on your behalf. That cost will be there. But when you're buying, when you work with us, our cost doesn't cost you anything. Our services are free when you're buying. So why would you not want your own representation when you're buying a home? It doesn't cost you anything. There is no charge.
And
At least with us. I'm not saying every case, but with us, there's no charge.
No.
Whether that's new build, resale, for sale by owner, there's never a charge with us.
And when considering on the list side, I just lost my train of thought.
So you initially asked me about when we were talking about listing your home yourself instead of using a realtor to list. You just want to put a Canadian Tire for sale by house for sale on the front lawn.
Yes.
And
So
what does that look like for the seller?
well, it looks like a Canadian Tire for sale sign on the front lawn.
Exactly right.
So the challenge, I'm saying the real estate industry, or as a seller, what that means is you're going to be, for 99% of the case, you're going to have people contacting you that have no pre-approval. They have no information about your home because you might have it on, Kijiji, or you might have it on Facebook Marketplace, but you're not sure if the buyers coming in are qualified. And exactly what they're
And there's a lot of people that I know from experience too are very leery of Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji because of the amount of scams that have been going on out there as well. There's a lot of rentals out there where people will just be taking pictures of the outside of the house and then uploading various photos for inside that have nothing to do with that house and charging rent all online.
How often do you put like a table
That's
that you
a
don't need
worse
anymore
story
on
than mine.
Marketplace, or an old phone? You put it for $100 and you're getting offers for $50. You're getting lowballed over here.
Without
over
even
there,
people looking at it or asking me.
So then you're considering that with your house, you're going to be getting those low.
Your biggest investment of your life should have a situation where you're going to try and get the best return on that investment.
And I have a story too, and apologies if I've said it before, but it's always one that kind of stuck with me. So when we first moved to London, my parents purchased a place here and close to Byron, and they were at work. It was just me home alone one day, and I noticed there was two women in my backyard and they were looking around and like inspecting the house, and I'm in my PJs on a Saturday and I step out. Luckily they were very nice, they were very kind, and they were shocked that somebody was living there because it turns out that our property was being listed on Kijiji by some scam artist and stating that they were in the army and they were moving forward in this process with these two women who were contemplating transferring the money to purchase this house that was not on the market. And they were trying to, so that was pretty crazy for me. So it's, there are deals to be done. There's some important avenues. Sometimes agents will also put your stuff on a Facebook Marketplace, but overall it's not necessarily the safest way to do things. And buyers know that too. So it's important to recognize the pool of buyers that you're getting to. If you're putting your stuff on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji, you're reaching people who are only looking on Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji. People who are really looking for a home. For a lot of instances, it doesn't cost them anything to work with a realtor. It doesn't with us. So why wouldn't they be using a realtor to look? And if they're serious buyers, they're going to be open up to a lot more options. So if you're also putting your home on for sale, even just like a for sale sign on your front lawn, you're only reaching the people who are going to be seeing that sign. You're only reaching the people who are browsing Facebook Marketplace. You're not reaching the serious buyers who are using their agent on an MLS system to get received listings daily and are a part of that pool. So the fact that you're just not reaching as many people usually comes down to you're not going to be making as much money, or you're not going to be getting fair market value for your home. And a lot of people really focus on that commission that they're saving, but a lot of the time you're leaving money on the table because you're not getting it sold for the best price possible by using your agent.
Even before a buyer has a realtor working with them too, they're always usually looking on Realtor.ca, right? How many times have you picked up somebody that
99% of buyers start their search on the internet, whether they're working with a realtor or not. So the realtor then can step in. But Hannah, further to what you said about when we list a property, we're focusing constantly on where it's being marketed to alleviate that struggle so it's not being scammed. But if there's a scam that comes up, our real estate board, L-Star, on the St. Thomas
I think it was actually for sale by owner in the end. Sorry, it wasn't listed by licensed real estate
Perhaps.
when we bought it. When
Perhaps.
my parents bought it, it was for sale by owner,
Right.
and somebody actually used that to scam.
So we, as realtors and our real estate board and the Real Estate Council of Ontario, they focus constantly on private ads to make sure that it's not being marketed where it shouldn't be marketed. So that's kind of an important deal too. It's good that you brought that up because people question that. That's why they implemented FinTrack forms when you're buying and selling, so we can prove that the buyers are who they say they are. The sellers, we can prove who they are, that they say they are, because we want to make sure that we're covering everything for our client and for ourselves, and so there's a lot less chance of there to be a scam happening. Everybody needs to verify everything.
And it's funny because if it was listed on the market, it very likely wouldn't have even, I felt bad for the people that were there getting all excited, right? And it wouldn't have even gotten that far if they could do a quick search on realtor.ca or find the information from the real estate sites, because when that is there too, it's less capability for those scammers to do what they want with it, right? It's more secure.
It's nice to have the backing and being, making sure that you're protected as well as a consumer, as a buyer, as a seller. So there's no challenge moving forward. Who wants that?
Yeah.
Sending money, sending deposits, buying a home that is actually not for sale.
Yeah.
Or not for lease if you're looking to lease.
We're not saying, like a lot of people feel that they're capable, and I get that. But a lot of the time there's resources that your agent has that you just simply don't. And by utilizing your agent to make this as stressless as possible on you, rather than you doing it all yourself, having to pay a lawyer extra fees to get them more involved in it, and still getting less of a list price than you would have if you used an agent.
Well, and I think just the tiny frustration, and it's not tiny, but the people that will make appointments to come over and view your home, and they don't show up. And at what cost to you? Maybe you've rearranged your whole day because they're coming over to look at your home, and then they don't show up. Or worse still, they do show up and they can't afford to buy your house. They haven't been to speak with anybody in a bank. They haven't done anything. So that's worth time too. It's worth money because you've invested your time. And you're trying to be as honest as possible in selling your home. But unfortunately, you're not going to be dealing with people like you all the time.
And didn't you guys have a story about something that you thought their house was sold? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that. But that was that was our buyers, our sellers had accepted an offer. Was it our buyers?
So we sold a home in Strathroy, and we were doing the home inspection, and our buyers said that their home had sold in Belmont. It was complete, and thank heavens I knew who the lawyer was, and I picked up the phone and I called the lawyer, and the lawyer said, well, their home is not sold firm. They are waiting for financing, and there was no deadline. There was no date because they
expiry date on the condition.
Exactly. And so it was just an absolute mess. But we were able to save the deal because Fortunately, the listing agent in the house in Strathroy was very knowledgeable, very great to deal with. And I called him up and I said, we're going to have to put a condition on sale of a house. I explained to him what had happened, and he was very gracious and asked me for a time frame, how long. And I said, I'm thinking 2 weeks. We were able to remove the condition in about a week. But
Yeah, just having more information.
these poor people would have owned 2 homes.
Oh.
They would have, it was, yeah, and had their own home in Belmont not firmed up, they couldn't have proceeded. And like most of us, could not have proceeded with their purchase because they needed the funds from their sale to buy. So, you know, it's,
Yeah, we all have stories on this.
yes, it's
Buying privately or selling privately, and we're not saying it's impossible. It's just a lot of extra work, and we understand that it's a lot of work. We do it every day. We do it every day, all days. But we eat, we breathe, we sleep real estate. So for people that want to try it, that's nothing wrong with that. It's just there's a lot that you may not know, and that's why we are here to help you through the process, to make sure that it's as Hannah said, as it's seamless and as smooth as possible, so you don't have to go through the negative. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We know what works. We've been doing it a long time. So be able to help you through that process so you can experience what we experience and have the best possible transaction so there's less headache for you.
Mhm.
Whether you're buying, whether you're selling, that's really the most important thing. Your biggest investment.
I think that's what's overlooked. It's not about capability. It's about maximizing your resources.
That's a great point, Chris. I think that too. I mean, if I need to have my roof done, I'm not going to try and save money by roofing it myself. I just know that the roofers will do a better job than I will. And I'm not saying
Let's
that
see what happened to Cranbrook.
Right? I'm not saying that you can't resurrect that.
The condo, sorry.
I'm not saying that people don't reshingle their own houses. I'm not saying people aren't very handy and build stuff. I'm just saying that if you need the resources because you're unsure, it's not always the best decision to handle this type of transaction on your own when it is your biggest investment.
And time is a big factor too, as Barb was saying, with how much time really does get taken up with things that aren't leading anywhere. And it's funny, I've been seeing a lot with the changes in the States. I've been seeing a lot of videos and everything about what if realtors were to get paid by the hour. And everybody thinks there's some people who are saying that we should be, but all of us realtors are saying, we should be.
There's a lot that happens behind the scenes, but again, we've learned to perfect those things, to try to eliminate all the risk, to know exactly what is involved for every transaction, things that need to be looked for, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, areas, schools, locations, streets, garbage pickup, do I have to get front door mail delivery? Any little thing, we have asset for all of those things and the right people to contact.
Well, how many people we know now too that have purchased in the rush of things in not the right neighborhood, and now they're facing the stigma of that neighborhood when they're trying to resell because they didn't know it was not reputable.
Yep.
And unfortunately we faced some of those issues recently, but that's what we're here for, to help you make those changes and get you moving. So lots to consider. I think that we're going to be wrapping up this topic, and then next time we'll let you know what we'll be talking about.
It's time for trivia.
You guys aren't looking up the answers on your phones, are you?
He is.
That was messy.
Time for my comeback.
Oh, I'm waiting to hear from you.
So I did a bad job of explaining the last question. When I say and or the company, I'm looking for the movie and or the company.
That's not how you said it.
That's how I said it.
No,
No, that's how I said it. I just didn't explain it.
No.
Okay,
Rewind the tape. Rewind it. There is some bonus point opportunities today, though, so that should help.
We know I need them.
First question. Name the movie from this quote. Or sorry, let me rephrase that. Name the movie where this quote is from, and or the company, and or the company, and or the company.
Movie and or the company that the movie is about.
Yeah, so you can get up to 2 points if
Okay.
you name the movie and the company.
I'm not getting 2 points on this one.
Well, no, because I only wrote down one thing because that's how I heard it.
I saw
I'm
it
gonna
recently.
when I'm editing.
Oh,
you
I'm
guys
gonna,
know this.
I'm gonna do the
Yay.
rewind.
What?
You just saw the movie, so you'll know.
You got a problem with that?
Yeah.
Chris,
What movie was it?
It was still a while
never
ago.
mind.
Okay,
Next question.
I think the win, and I'm getting upset.
I'm at 6 points. Give me a break.
Okay, here.
You need to stay at the bottom.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, 2.
The first 2 Home Depot stores were built in 1979 in Atlanta and real estate leased from what major department store chain?
Oh.
A. Macy's, B. JCPenney, C. Bloomingdale's, or D. Dillard's.
Can you read that again,
Wow.
Chris?
I didn't know that.
The first 2 Home Depot stores were built in 1979 in Atlanta and real estate leased from what major department store chain?
And they leased the real estate for these stores
Yeah.
from. Okay.
Yeah.
From again.
A. Macy's, B. JCPenney, C. Bloomingdale's, or D. Dillard's.
These are hard. Like, you know, when you search questions, they have easy, medium, or hard. Why do you go to the really hard?
Because you told me to.
I know.
That's right. I remember her
That's why I
saying,
started waiting.
you need harder questions.
I did say
So I
do
ramped
remember.
it up.
Yeah, you did.
All right.
Okay.
All right, first question, movie/company. What do we got? Let's start with Francis.
Don't say
No.
the right answer till we've all said it.
Remax.
Yeah.
I don't know the movie.
Remax is
Okay.
in the burger
I
joint?
put the movie.
Oh,
I put The Big Short. I had really had
Company?
no idea.
I think the company is McDonald's, and it's the movie starring Michael Keaton.
What's the movie name though?
I don't know.
Who does he play?
Never
He
mind.
plays
keep going,
the
keep
owner,
going.
the guy
plays
that
Ronald
bought,
McDonald's.
that bought McDonald's. I
The
played.
founder.
Okay, yeah.
The founder?
The founder. It's in McDonald's.
Yeah, who's the
That's
founder?
correct.
of
I thought you said
McDonald's?
the real estate agent.
What is it?
You said you're in, the way I heard it was you needed a real estate
the quote
agent.
is you're not in the burger business, you're in the real estate business.
Yeah, so I thought
Michael
you wanted the
Keaton
company
plays
of the
that
real
guy.
estate business.
Michael
It's
Keaton.
McDonald's.
Company mentioned in the film.
Oh, okay.
It's
I would have
about
said that.
franchising.
I would have said that. No, but I thought he meant you're in the what realtor. That's how I heard
And the
it.
reference to that is because how McDonald's started
I saw
with the franchises is that they actually purchased real estate rather than, and that's how
So-
franchising started. It's a great movie. Watch it. Michael
Seen
Keaton.
it.
Michael
Seen
Keaton.
it, seen
So
it.
my answer is McDonald's movie starring
But too late.
Michael
just got
Keaton.
You got one
You got
point.
McDonald's. I misunderstood that whole thing. Next time I'm going to take up about 10 minutes. of
I'm
your
coming
time.
back, y'all.
Having you clarify what you're saying.
Okay, I got
All right.
1 point.
Second question: Macy's, JCPenney, Bloomingdale's, or Dillard's?
Start with him.
Let's go, Jerry.
I put Dillard's.
I put Dillard's too.
They're in Florida.
Hannah?
I put Macy's because they're the richest.
I
Francis?
said J.C. Penney because they were closing.
Francis is correct.
Yeah, I know.
Now it's
I
right
know. Yeah,
It's okay. It would be the
Oh yeah,
same.
because I understood the question. You can't have
Dillard's
something
is
like
a
that, but
department
real
store in the
estate, and then
States.
and then we're all about real estate.
It was
so
J.C. Penney.
Why would you say
JCPenney.
McDonald's when it's about real
That's
estate?
basically Macy's.
No, I knew it. Yes, because I've been to all that. Dillard's is Florida.
Dillard's.
I don't like Dillard's.
Well, they're in Florida. Like their major thing.
They
is
seem to have
Florida.
taken over a lot of the base.
They-
So Francis and I are
We
still
still-
the
we're
same.
I'm still 8, but you're
So Jerry didn't move
11.
at all. It was a rough trivia game today.
Yeah, I like.
We're at 8, 8, 8, and 11 for Bart.
You got 8.
Yeah. What was that movie called?
The
Chris?
Founder.
Founder.
The
I've seen it, but
It was really good.
I really did hear a real
It
estate.
was- I
thought
watched
you
that
wanted to know
movie
the
about
company
3
name
years-
of the real
4
estate.
years ago.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so simple to
It
me.
was good.
Goodbye, good luck.
It was excellent.
Somebody take us out.
All right, guys. Thank you very, very much for listening in. We will be back again. As always, if you have any topics that you'd like us to discuss, don't hesitate to send us a message or send us an email. Visit the website anytime. You can listen to all of these podcasts from start to finish. on our website.
And
And
that
message
is
us, dwyerteam.com.
There it is.
Or
Is
Apple
on.
Podcasts or YouTube.
Anything that we're discussing, anything that you would
Spotify.
like to discuss, it can all be dealt with through the website. So we'd love to hear from you, feedback. That'd be fantastic, or any topic ideas. Thanks very much. Until next time.